promise you, you're not the best person on the planet to fill out paperwork. There are other people who can do that better than you. And now there's, AI agents that can do that. And if you can teach it, not only are you enabling yourself, you get to remove yourself as the bottleneck, but you're doing something that a lot of people miss out on when they try to delegate something, which is empowerment.
That's Ari Meisel. He's turned his hobby, which is optimizing productivity, into a popular framework and consulting service for automating and outsourcing life and business tasks. And a recent medical situation made it an absolute necessity. His less doing philosophy continues to grow in popularity and has become a platform for general efficiency consulting to businesses, entrepreneurs, and everyone else who could use a little more time in their life. He's also become a master at orchestrating AI agents, which you'll hear a little bit about. So you'll learn 1, how to build systems that don't rely on you. 2, how to deploy AI agents to do your work for you. And 3, the rules of effective delegation. And if you want a quick summary write-up of the actionable wisdom that Ari shares, I recommend you sign up for the free Gold Nugget email newsletter found at awesomeatyourjob.com. I'm Pete Mikaitis. This is How to Be Awesome at Your Job. And now, here's Ari. Ari, welcome back.
Thanks, Pete. Good to see you.
Well, I'm excited to dig into your story and what you've been up to for the last 7 years since your last appearance on How to Be Awesome at Your Job. For starters, could you perhaps orient listeners who didn't catch that one 7 years ago? What is Less Doing and what's that all about?
So Less Doing is the productivity methodology that I created, like 15 years ago now. And it is my company where I do productivity and business coaching for entrepreneurs, founders, executives all over the world, and been doing that for about a decade and a half now.
Yeah, beautiful. And so last time we talked about optimizing and automating and outsourcing. And so we'll talk about some of that again with some new insights and tools and goodies. But in your life, this notion of less doing took on a not just sort of a nice to have, but an absolutely critical must do kind of a vibe. Can you tell us the story?
So when I got out of college, I was working in real estate development and construction and built a big project in upstate New York. But I was really hands-on. I was working my butt off and not living a particularly healthy lifestyle and under a lot of stress, and ended up finding myself in quite a bit of debt when I was 23. And I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And Crohn's is considered to be an incurable illness that affects the digestive tract. And I was able to overcome that illness and have been free of it for a long, long time now. But the main constraint that I was faced with was I went from working 18-hour days to barely being able to get an hour of work done a given day. And that extreme restriction on my time is honestly what has led to everything that has come since then. And it's an exercise that I take people through, which is, what would you do if you can only work an hour a day? And the question at that point really isn't what would you do, it's what wouldn't you do, right? Because if the things that you need to do have to get done by something or somebody, you have to figure that out so that hour becomes a thing that only you can do.
Well, that's powerful. And can you share with us, so you said you could only do 1 hour of work. For those who are not as familiar with Crohn's disease and its impact, like what would happen if you tried to push more than that?
I mean, so it was both a physical and I'd say a psychological barrier that I was dealing with, because first of all, any autoimmune disease, you're essentially like at war with your own body, which is challenging in itself. Crohn's, again, it affects the digestive tract. So not only is it difficult to eat and enjoy food and benefit from food, but there's also like a nutrient deficiency thing that kind of happens because of it. And it just creates all sorts of problems. So there was literally the physical weakness where there were days where I just didn't even want to get out of bed. And then there were other days where, you're diagnosed with a chronic and incurable illness. It's like, well, what's the point of doing any of this other stuff? So it's really challenging.
Absolutely. That's brutal. So what did you do precisely in order to make work fit in an hour?
So at the time, It was very different than the things we can do now, of course, with AI. But the framework that I came up with was optimize, automate, outsource in that order, right? So we have to optimize and look at what we are actually doing and sort of do a bit of an audit, which sounds kind of basic, but most people just don't do that. The second step is once we've done that, we look at automation. And again, automation, the tools at our disposal have changed quite a bit over time, especially in the last year. But we automate what we can. And then whatever's left over is the stuff that we give to a person that we might outsource or delegate to help with that, whether that's a virtual assistant or a graphic designer or a coder or whatever it might be. So it was really this sort of systematic approach to doing that. And that was the personal methodology. The less doing, more living was what it was really called. And then over a few years, that morphed into a bit more of a business focused methodology, which I would call the replaceable founder. And the idea there is to make everybody in the business, including the founder, as replaceable as possible by creating systems and processes that stand in for the things that you do at a level that is not at your level of genius, essentially, everything else. And it, again, became this really systematic approach at making yourself more replaceable.
Okay. Well, could you walk us through some of those steps in terms of the questions, the prompts, the activities that you do when you are optimizing and automating and outsourcing, and maybe share some specific tasks that you, with the condition, ended up working through those 3 steps?
So I'll give you an example. It's going to sound like a really weird one, but anybody who's got a family in addition to their work and their business could, and kids might be able to appreciate this. So I have 5 kids, and I have 5 kids right now that are in different camps, and camp requires lots of forms to be filled out. And I can't tell you how many times I've encountered this where there's entrepreneurs who are also parents, and they feel like they have to be the one to fill out the form. Nobody else could possibly do that. Oh, there's so many questions that I have to answer. And also, like, it's for my family, so I'm going to do it. And there's a lack of knowledge there. And first of all, in terms of like what actually could be done by somebody else, there's also an ego thing and like a value thing, right? And the problem with that is if you're working and you're efficient, you're making money and you're supporting your family and great, and then you come home and you have to spend an hour doing paperwork, like there's this weird stigma. It's like, oh, I couldn't outsource something like that. It's personal. It's for my family. And there's also no ROI on it. It's like, well, there actually is, because that hour is something that you could be doing with your family and having the human element there, as opposed to sitting and filling out paperwork. And I promise you, you're not the best person on the planet to fill out paperwork. There are other people who could do that better than you. And now there's, AI agents that could do that as well or better. So that, again, that sounds like a really trivial example, but you have things like that in business all the time where people feel like I have to be the one to do it. Nobody else could possibly check the boxes like I do. And it sounds like I'm being facetious, but that is literally like the mindset. I can't tell you the number of companies I've dealt with where you have a COO of a multi-million-dollar company booking travel for the CEO because that's the only person they trust to do it, right? Because you couldn't possibly codify your seat preference and your, the how many hours. It's true though, and it's crazy. Like, I actually just got off the phone with a client who runs an 8-figure company, and he's got a full-time executive assistant. He books his own travel. He's got the apps on his phone. He just he just does it himself. And it's like, okay, sure. But like, it's just so crazy. And that's the one that comes up a lot. And then you have the things where people have just been doing it a really long time, and they feel like the reason that they're able to do it is because they know it better than anybody else. But if you know it that well, you should be able to teach it. It's a really good sort of, litmus test for how well you know something. And if you can teach it, not only are you enabling yourself you get to remove yourself as a bottleneck, but you're doing something that a lot of people miss out on when they try to delegate something, which is empowerment. A lot of delegation for people who do it is, here's an annoying thing that I don't want to deal with or I'm not good at, so I'm going to give it to somebody else who has less context, less information. And at the same time, I'm expecting them to produce a superior result to what I was going to produce myself. So I'm literally just setting everybody up for failure. And then I get to reinforce the idea that outsourcing and delegating doesn't work for me.
Well, I love that so much in terms of, one, getting over yourself. And we had Dave Kirpin on the show who talked about that concept and has a book with a similar name. In terms of like, no one could possibly do the camp forms or do the travel the way I like, or there's like a hang up like, well, if that's just what a good dad or a good mom would do for their kids. They wouldn't dream of outsourcing. And so you're directly challenging these internal narratives, which I think is excellent in terms of, well, no, if you took the time to really speak what it is you need in a seat, because in a way I get it a little bit in terms of like, when I'm choosing between 3 different flight options, there are trade-offs. And how do I articulate to another person, I'm willing to pay an extra $60 if it means that I don't have to hang with a 2-hour layover? So what's my layover minutes per dollar conversion rate? Like how do I algorithmically, contextually convey that? That's kind of tricky. I don't know. Ari, how do I do that?
So this is going to sound really reductivist, but a lot of times people don't convey the outcome that they're trying to achieve. So I'll give you a good example. Actually, it's one of my favorite favorite virtual assistant stories ever. I was going to Canada I lived in New York at the time. I was going to Canada for the day to go to an event that I had to be at the event, I think about 8:30 in the morning. And I'd go to this event somewhat regularly, but I was sitting in the airport at 5 in the morning or 5:15, whatever. And I get a text on my phone from my virtual assistant at the time, and it says, your flight is getting canceled, but we rebooked you on, United Airways. Go over to gate B6. And I'm like half awake. There's there's a bunch of people around me. Nobody's reacting or saying or doing anything. And I'm like looking around. Okay. So I get up and I start walking, and I get about 100 feet away from the gate, and they made the announcement that the flight was canceled, and there was like pandemonium. And I just walked to the gate, got on the other flight. And so the virtual assistants had booked the flight for me, and the outsource, what I had delegated was like, I need to be there by, 8:00. So because my flight got canceled, they didn't stop and ask me, do you want to get on this seat or that? But no, they immediately, going with the goal, they rebooked me on a flight that would get me there and meet my requirements. And that was done. So, and that was amazing. That was like that was like such an awesome experience. But so a lot of times it's like, update this spreadsheet with these 150 lines, or, sort this email. But we're not conveying what the actual outcome is. Like, why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve? And, to some extent, yeah, sure. Sometimes I just need something to get done, and I can tell you that. But when there's any variability and you need to create sort of this sandbox within which a person can feel like they have some autonomy, and actually not even autonomy, agency to overcome problems and get to that outcome, people engage with that work much better, first of all, like anybody who outsources, because again, it's empowering. It's not just like sweeping crap under the rug. But what's really amazing is that a lot of times the people who are delegating, the leaders, don't even have an idea consciously of what that outcome is. They're just sort of going through the motions.
Yeah. And with flights, you're right. I want to appear no later than this time in this location, with the minimum amount of stress and fuss and headache and rush at a reasonable price point for the fare. That's what I'm up to. And I guess you can elaborate a little bit. Here's what I mean by reasonable. Here's what I mean by fuss. And then go at it. It was so, in your case, what I love about that is your delegation resulted in an outcome far better than you could have achieved on your own if you were like out of it in the morning, and then everyone else was in trouble because they didn't get the memo quick enough because your folks were on top of it. They were watching it and they knew what you needed, and bam, that's fantastic. And I felt that in my own world with regard to, I've been reluctant to let go. And then when I did, it's like, oh, this is just so much better. I should have just done that earlier. Very true.
Exactly. That's truly the power of delegation, right? It's really supposed to be a multiplier in that way when you do it correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so if someone's listening and they don't want to fill out the camp form, so what's the trick on this one, Ari?
Now it's AI agents. So I've built an AI chief of staff framework that I share for free on my website. I mean, anybody can get it. that is based on my years and years of experience, not only working with hundreds of virtual assistants personally, but running my own VA company. And I really think this thing that I've built is better than any of the ones I've ever worked with. And so it's actually, I think it's doing something right now. So this was another good story. So I was on a call yesterday, on a Zoom call, and a text message came in from camp and said like there was some waivers missing or something for two of my kids for some place they were going to go next week. And I saw it pop up. I was like, okay, whatever. I got off the call about 20 minutes later and it was already taken care of. So my iMessages are connected to my agent through a tool called Blue Bubbles. And basically the agent saw the message and felt like an action needed to be taken. And it logged into the camp website, found the waivers, signed the waivers, which it had done before. So it wasn't just going completely off the rails. Like I had asked it to do that before. And then updated the camp with a text message back saying like these waivers are done. So that was all done before I even got off the call.
Well, that is stunning. Wow. Okay. So we just go to lessdoing.com and we can get ourselves a chief of staff agent like this.
For that one, you go to lessdoing.ai.
Oh, okay. Well, that's wild. So many questions bubble up from that. It's like, how do I know it's not going to go rogue and do something horrifically bad that I don't want, that I can't undo? How do I do that?
So, and I'm not like gatekeeping here because it's free, but there are actually like 18 foundational rules that I've developed that are in that AI chief of staff framework. So it's actually not that hard to achieve. Everyone worries about like hallucinations, all this stuff. One of the most basic thing, there's two really, really basic rules that I have for the AI agents, which the fascinating thing about this for me is that you have all this stuff about like, oh, this is the 30-word prompt that's going to turn your business into $1 billion company and like all these perfect prompts. And it's all total BS. There is no such thing as the perfect prompt. You need to have good structures and foundations in place, and then you don't need prompts. So basically, two of those really important foundational rules, which are, so this is what I was going to say. It's not an AI skill. It's delegation is the skill. It's the same stuff I've been teaching forever. So so two of those really important rules, which again, I would give these to a human also. The first one is anytime you do something, the next step is to verify that you did the thing that you were supposed to do. Sounds really silly, but most people, it's like, have my AI send a whole bunch of emails. And then the AI comes back and says, I sent all the emails, but it didn't. Or the emails were blank, or it wrote them, but didn't send them, or it sent them to the wrong address, all these things. So every single action that I have an AI agent do, the next step is now go, you sent an email. Next step is go look in the sent messages and compare what was sent to what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to put a Slack message. Now go read the Slack message. You're supposed to write a document. Now go read again, it sounds basic, but people don't do that.
Well, I think that some people, when you give this duty to a human, I'd say people do it so automatically, they don't even realize that they're doing it. Because I think about that with Slack. It's like I type it, I push enter. I do spend maybe 1/10 of a second looking, oh, did that text show up in Slack such that it's sent? Likewise with my emails or an attachment. Did I attach the correct version to this email? That's the new updated, freshly saved version to this email. Oh, did this hyperlink that I pasted in fact, point to the URL I intended it to point to? So in a way, I think many of us are doing it so instantly, automatically, we forgot that we are doing it.
Some of you are. I am not one of those people. I am not one of those people. Attention to detail is not one of my strong suits. And I'm aware of that. And that's why I often hire for that when I would hire people. I'll send it and then I'll move on to the next 16 things. And then someone's like, hey, you forgot the thing. It's like, oh, right. Okay. So
well,
yeah,
that's great.
You're right.
Verify you did the thing. Human or AI, verify that you did the thing.
So that's one. Next. The other one is I do what's called a nightly knowledge card. So you can do this kind of anywhere you want. It could be a Google Doc, it could be Notion, it could be Evernote. It doesn't really matter. I use Trello just because I love Trello. So every one of my agents, and I've got 32 active agents right now, every single night at 11 p.m., it updates a Trello card with a comment. And the comment is what you accomplished today, what automations ran, what blockers were encountered, what solutions were developed, and what is the plan for tomorrow. Every single night. I have a couple agents that have been running nonstop for over 160 days now. And so there are over 160 comments on that card. So what that means is two things. One is it never, ever loses track because every morning it's supposed to check that card and know like where it's off to. So that's first, like that's a very basic sort of cron job, check your nightly knowledge card to see what you should be doing and where you're at and compare that against the instructions that you already have. The other one is that if I ever want to move to a different AI platform, agent platform, or I want to build that into another agent or have a new agent spin up that's based on another agent, that entire history is there.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes really difficult at that point to sort of go off the rails. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult.
And so, we'll drop by less doing.ai. When you talk about an agent platform for folks who just say, I just know ChatGPT, I top some things. It's like a better Google. What do you even mean by an agent platform? Is that some software we go download or buy somewhere?
Yeah. So ChatGPT is an LLM, right? So that is a great resource for getting information, maybe compiling some documents, putting together an image or presentation. It's very much a push-pull, right? I want something, you give me the thing. Agents are proactive, where it's like, here's the outcome, here's the goal. Now figure out and go do those things and run all day, every day without having to bother me for things. So a lot of the LLMs have agent platforms, but the most popular ones right now, I would say, are probably Claude Code and Hermes, and the one that I use, which is tasklet.ai. So Tasklet is a web-based platform. And for example, you can take if you go to that lessdoing.ai, you're going to get a PDF with the whole framework of the whole chief of staff thing. You take that document, drop it into Tasklet, and it will build it out for you and start asking you some questions of like, connect me to your Gmail and connect me to your calendar and let me get to work.
Okay. And you haven't witnessed anything catastrophic happen to you or any of the people you've hooked up to this?
Nothing.
Okay. Good news. All right. Well, that was a fun deep dive, a little treat. But zooming back out, optimizing, automating, outsourcing. So you've got two great rules that you shared with us with regard to when you're delegating stuff to humans or robots. Any other powerful questions, guidelines, principles you're using as you consider optimizing, automating, and outsourcing?
Yeah. So at a very fundamental level, sometimes we really need to ask why we do things the way that we do them, which again sounds sort of basic, but they're the most common answer to why in a business. Why do we use this accounting software? Why do we use this landscaper that mows the front lawn of our store? Why do we do anything? The answer most of the time is, well, that's how we've always done it. And that's a really, really bad reason to keep doing something. Now, to be fair, a lot of smaller businesses, a lot of bigger businesses simply don't have the bandwidth to re-examine those relationships, those tools, consider the migrations. It becomes a very big headache very quickly. But now with AI, we can do that in such a bandwidth, unlimited way in some cases. So for example, right now I'm sitting in the Princeton First Aid and Rescue Squad. We are the EMS provider, the ambulance provider for the town of Princeton, New Jersey. And I am the executive director here. It's one of my side passions. I've been an EMT for about 15 years and I was a volunteer here for about 5 years. And now I'm the executive director. So this is an 86-year-old organization. And there were a lot of things in place where it's like, well, that's the software we always used. And this was how we did these. And this is when we had our meetings. And every single thing I'm able to say, hold on, let me take that bill and give it to my AI agent. I have a chief of staff agent that I built here. I also have a bookkeeper agent that I built here. Go out and get 3 quotes. See if this is competitive. Oh, it's not? Great. Send an email to this person with a negotiation. See if they can match it. Otherwise, let's switch. Cool. And that's been huge for us here. Billing. We've been billing at this rate for about 6 years now. We probably should bill more, but can we justify that? Well, let's take all that data and crunch it and see what number we really should be billing at. Here it is. Okay, that's what we're going to do now. Again, none of this is like rocket science. It's so much easier to just keep going than to be like, hold on a minute. Let's figure out if there's actually a better way. It takes more work initially to do that.
So when you say have an agent go get quotes, that sounds pretty sophisticated in terms of how much guidance do you have to offer? I mean, does that just consist of look up vendor, find email address for vendor, email vendor, describe situation, ask for price, and like that's the series of tasks that they're up to there?
Yeah. I mean, it's not much more, but that's the thing, right? It's like, it's not much more complicated than that. And
Sure.
again, this is the thing where people are like, I couldn't possibly, make that into a binary decision. It's like, yeah, you can. This is what we pay for this thing now. Do you offer this thing and how much do you charge for it? Is that number bigger or smaller than the number that I'm paying now? It's like, but seriously, you have people are like, nah, you don't know these guys. And like, I gotta talk to them and explain the whole situation. No, you don't. You don't.
Okay.
And you're not the best person in the world to do that. No person that I have ever met is the best person at describing the situation that they're in so that somebody else can give them a price for it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Oh man, these are some hot takes. Well, I guess though the flip side is sometimes it's annoying when when you're trying to purchase services and you want a price. Sometimes the sales folks are trained. Oh, we don't give that away without a call. You got to hop on the phone or the Zoom to get that info.
My AI agents can make phone calls.
Okay. Hello, Ari. What is the price for your coaching services?
So, it's funny. They're actually quite good now. And what I did, and because I've listened to the recordings of a lot of the calls, and this is just my anecdotal take. It's kind of a known thing, I think, in the call center industry. This shouldn't be shocking to anybody, but a lot of times, for better or worse, right, when somebody picks up the phone, if they hear somebody say something with an accent, it's like, well, it's a telemarketer, and they hang up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We know that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Same thing with agent. You have people like human. Like they don't, just like don't. So my anecdotal take on this from my own personal experience, but also from hearing a bunch of these calls, is I don't think people have a problem with the accent or with the AI, with the automation. I think they have a problem with bad ones where they're there's a lack of understanding. There's a delay. They have to repeat themselves. The AI that I have right now and it's not my technology. I use bland.ai and retail AI. They're really, really good. And I've had people have full-on conversations with the AI where it's like, I really can't tell if they can tell. And if they can tell, they don't seem to mind.
Okay. They're not just like, you stupid clanker. You're not hearing that on the other side.
No, I had my chief of staff call the vet to get like a bill. We needed a bill that they hadn't sent me, whatever. And the AI voice agent spelled our cat's name for the person at the reception. And it's a French name. So like they did it perfectly and did it clearly. And the person heard it. They didn't have to repeat it. The person gave some information back. The AI understood it, didn't have to repeat it back. Like it was a very fluid conversation.
Okay. Well, this is pretty mind-blowing stuff in that I've heard like enthusiastic, hyped tech bros claim that this is what the future is going to be. And you're telling me, oh no, I am doing it right now, easily, without worry or catastrophe or trouble. And it's been a delight. That's what I'm picking up from you, Ari.
It's been the greatest thing I've ever experienced in my entire career. I mean, look, just
okay.
Let me just give you just some context to this, right? So, do you know what the Jevons paradox is?
No, I've heard of it, but I forgot. Lay it on us.
So the original one was from the Industrial Revolution when there was coal production. And basically, Jevons paradox says that while we would assume that when something becomes more efficient, a process, an engine, whatever, you need less of it. In a Jevons paradox, the opposite happens and we have this explosion. So coal production was an example of that, right? We could suddenly power all of America with a tenth of the factories, but now we quintupled the number of factories because we wanted to expand so fast. AI is another example of that. I am an example of that. Okay, so famously, I mean, I've been quoted for this a bunch of times, but I spent several years where I was probably working 20 minutes a day doing all of my coaching and everything, and that was legitimate. Now I am busier, and it's amazing though, because I think that I'm accomplishing more than 100 people could accomplish. I have my company, so my coaching business, I am here as the executive director of the Princeton First Aid and Rescue Squad. I have two other W-2 jobs because people now don't want to just have me be a coach. They want to hire me on as an employee for some reason. That's been a new experience for me. I'm also sit on several boards. I'm on the school board here in Princeton, which is an elected position. I have 5 kids, 3 cats, 2 dogs, and I'm still able to, sit here and have a really great conversation with you, Pete, because all of this stuff, I have 32 agents working on stuff for me.
That's wild. Well, thank you for giving us a taste and a glimpse of that whole world. I wanted to hear about your profound love for asynchronous voice or voicemails. Because if you're on lessdoing.com, that shows up pretty front and center that you love these voicemails. Tell us what's so great about them.
So there's a number of platforms for this. A lot of people are probably familiar with Voxer. You can do this with WhatsApp and iMessage, but they just don't work as well, in my opinion. So I use Carbon Voice now. That's my platform of choice. And it is primarily a voice platform. And what I like about that, it's funny, this actually came out of a weird specific thing to me, and now this is such a different issue entirely. For so many years, I was known for all the virtual assistant work. I was doing all the outsourcing stuff. So it was always a constant thing where I would have to convince people that they were actually talking to me. So it would be like, hi, Ari, or Ari's VA, or Ari's automation. It was like, no, it's really me. Like, here's today's newspaper, I swear. And so with voice coaching, particularly, I'm able to, I don't have to say like, this is not a VA, it's not an automation. And of course, now we have voice cloning, but it's not quite there. People can still tell. So I don't know, 5, 6, no, maybe 7 years ago now, I switched from the traditional coaching model of meeting with clients 1 hour a week, every week, and talking through stuff to fully asynchronous. So now, instead of a client having to wait till next Wednesday for us to talk for 45 minutes and get the 3-minute answer that they need, now they can walk out of a fight with their co-founder on a Friday afternoon, send me a voice message. A couple hours later, I can listen to it, think through my answer, and respond to them with like that 90-second silver bullet answer that they need to get through their weekend and focus on other things. And it's such a more effective form of coaching, but it also allows me to never miss a soccer game and take my kids to school and pick them up every day because I'm never on someone else's schedule. Everything is, 99% of my communication is asynchronous.
That's cool. And so as opposed to email or text message, you've got the richness of the voice and the emotion and the nuance and texture and tone. That's cool. I guess you also do it faster than you type words. How else are you thinking about this versus email, and how do you deal with email generally?
Yeah, so people generally speak 4 times faster than they type. I certainly do. I'm also a very audio-visual kind of person, so I'm not a great reader. I've never been my whole life. It's just I'm that person that reads a page and then they've been thinking about something else all the time and have to read the page again. But I can remember lines from movies that I saw when I was 15. Like, I don't know that's a good thing, but it's just how my brain works. So I can listen and think through a problem with a client and then respond really well. The other thing is, and this is another limitation I recognize in myself, my initial response sometimes is probably more aggressive than I want it to be because I can get annoyed very quickly because I've seen these problems so many times. So for having me have the ability to take a little space and be like, that's not going to come off right. Let me think through that again. And even in some cases, record the voice message and then recall it because I was like, that wasn't what I wanted to say. It ultimately ends up being a much better experience for the client. And it's a really incredible, sort of learning experience for me as a coach. I get a do-over sometimes. But I often will say that I can tell more about a situation from the way a client says something than what they actually say. And you lose that in email.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, at this point, there's so many tools, so many AI tools for writing emails for you and managing emails for you. Like when you're dealing with voice stuff, you really know that you're talking to the person. And again, like I have voice cloning on the app because it's built in. So if I type something, it will speak it in my voice. But it's still, it's more natural, but it's not actually me. So there's just something very intimate about that. And also one more thing about that too, is it's such a common practice, I feel like, for people to outsource their inboxes, which I have never, ever been a fan of because I think it's a real breach of trust, honestly. And, if somebody knows that they're communicating with someone's assistant through that person's inbox, I think it just creates a very weird sort of scenario. this is always private and always like me and them, which is hard to achieve nowadays.
Right. Well, tell us, what do you have running on your own inbox? I like Superhuman as an app, although it's still me, Pete Makaitis, the person typing out the things. What are you doing there?
Just good old Gmail and some good habits.
Well, but I mean, so super automation, outsourcing, optimizing, you're just like tapping away in Gmail?
Yeah. Yeah. So with one caveat. So I actually, unfortunately, I have to use Outlook also for a couple of the organizations I'm involved in. I hate Outlook. But basically, yeah, mostly in Outlook. So for certain emails from certain people with certain topics, my AI chief of staff will draft emails for me in response. And then I'll usually just go in it.
Okay. So you review and then send?
Yeah, and I'll send them. But there are also quite a few where it can autonomously just send it without having to draft first. So like in Slack, for example, this has actually been so fun. So I use Slack with a few different companies too. And for example, I have an AI agent that was building a website for the company. And because I don't have that attention to detail, I put it into the Slack channel with 6 people on the team. I'm like, hey, everybody, can you check on the website and make any comments of things that you see that are wrong? And what was so fun was, so someone would make a comment, oh, this page doesn't load, this link's broken. The AI is in Tasklet. Tasklet is in Slack. So it would immediately be like, oh, thanks for catching that. I've already, rolled that into the next version and deployed it. So then the next person's like, oh, well, I see this thing and this thing. It would be great if this was here. Oh, great idea. Thank you. So what ends up happening is you get to like V7 within 20 minutes, and each person, we don't have 6 people looking at V1 and giving comments. Every person that looks at it is seeing a better version than the last person that looked at it. And so in a matter of like 20 to 30 minutes, you've gotten this incredible iteration, and the website is like fantastic now. And in that case, I'm not drafting anything. I'm not approving. It's just going and it's taking feedback, fixing it, and doing it again.
That's really cool. So that was fun for that particular project, rather than we're emailing a designer or a robot designer and then waiting. And so inside your Gmail or Outlook, you are just like a normal person, reading messages and replying to messages that don't fit into the narrow AI auto piece. Well, you mentioned the AI is drafting. Kind of logistically, tactically, how does one get an AI up in their Outlook and or Gmail reading and drafting replies?
So a lot of the agent platforms can just do that. You just say like connect to my Gmail, and it'll do that through whatever means it uses. But the key, of course, I would say, is to have it look back through a lot of the emails that you've sent to get your style and that sense of style. The other thing that I'll do, so I do manage my own inbox for the most part, just because I have a whole methodology around this I've been teaching forever called the 3Ds for Inbox Zero. But what I will do is, if I'm unavailable for some reason, like tomorrow, for example, I'm going to be at this event with one of my kids and I will not be on the phone at all for like 6 or 7 hours. What I'll usually do in that case is if I get back on my phone and there's like 60 emails, I'll just go to my chief of staff and be like, just triage the inbox. And so then what it'll start doing is it can draft, it can archive, it can answer things that it needs to. And the example I gave of the camp waiver, like if it knows that an action needs to be taken and it knows that it can take that action, it is instructed to just do that and get it done.
Okay. That's cool. Well, Ari, tell me, anything else you want to make sure to mention before we hear about your favorite things?
People should go to lessdoing.ai. There's a free like 5-day boot camp thing. It's not a upsell or anything. You get this document. You don't do anything else with it. I think that'll probably be really eye-opening for people.
Big thanks to Ari for sharing his wisdom with us, and big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out. One sponsor to check out is Shopify. Shopify powers millions of businesses worldwide, from household names like Mattel to small businesses just getting started. If you've been sitting on a business idea, Shopify makes it easy to make it happen. What you need to start selling is included and ready from day one. When your first customer is ready to pay, Shopify Checkout helps more of them successfully finish their purchase. And when they return, their details are already there. With just one tap, they check out super quick. Because Shopify handles these tricky setup and checkout details, you've got more free time and less frustration, so you can tackle the cool, fun, strategic stuff that really moves things forward. Shopify bridges the gap between your idea and a real business. So go make one. Ka-ching! Start your free trial at shopify.com/awesomepod. That's shopify.com/awesomepod. And spelled out, that's SHOPIFY. vinted.com/AWESOMEPOD. One sponsor to check out is Vinted. Vinted is a secondhand marketplace app with a mission to make secondhand feel like your first choice. Here at How to Be Awesome at Your Job, we love the 80-20 rule oh so much, and it applies to your closet just as well. In my experience, I wear about 20% of my clothing items about 80% of the time. So why not clear out those trivial many clothing items? Vinted is a secondhand app that makes it super easy for everyday sellers, that's folks like you and me, to sell pre-loved fashion and earn some extra money in the process. I've personally been impressed by the beauty and simplicity of the Vinted app, which is free to download. Listing items is super quick and easy with just a few taps. With Vinted, there are no selling fees, and once your item sells, Vinted creates the prepaid shipping label for you. So if you're ready to declutter your closet to the vital few and make some extra money, download the Vinted app for free and start listing. With no seller fees, you keep every dollar that you earn.
A colossal monster tearing through the streets. A city in ruins. Nowhere to hide. Until he finds a way out behind the wheel of the all-electric Toyota CHR. Instant torque, getaway handling, and immeasurable wow factor. John Cho stars in Escape. Experience the thrill. Test drive Toyota's new all-electric family at your local dealer. Toyota, let's go places.
All right, thank you. Well, now could you share with us a favorite quote, something you find inspiring?
So it's Robert Heinlein quote, and I look at it every year. So it's a human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects.
Okay. And a favorite study or experiment or bit of research?
So I've been very interested in how environments affect our productivity, mood, all sorts of things. So whether it's lighting or temperature, or even an interesting one. So I have a thermostat in my office here that doesn't do anything. Actually, the building temperature is controlled centrally. So I'm not even sure why they set these up when they do this. But if you give somebody a thermostat in their office and they think that they have control over their thermal environment, they will be more productive and actually happier. So there's really, I find a lot of that stuff very, very interesting, how you sort of set up your environment for greater productivity and like happiness.
Okay. And a favorite book?
Emergency by Neil Strauss.
Okay. And a favorite tool?
Tasklet.ai probably would be my favorite tool.
Okay. And a favorite habit?
I've gone through so many different seasons of exercise in my life, but I'm 43 now. I've got kids and it's busy. Every morning I do a kettlebell workout before 6 a.m, basically. And sometimes it's 5 minutes, but every morning I pick up that kettlebell and I do something. And I think that has a really measurable effect on how the day goes for me and mobility and just how I feel.
Okay. And is there a key nugget you share that really seems to connect and resonate with folks? They quote back to you often?
You can't read the label from inside the jar.
Yeah. Okay. There's
yeah. In 7 years, you can say that back to me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And if folks want to learn more, get in touch, where would you point them?
lessdoing.com.
All right. And do you have a final challenge or call to action for folks looking to be awesome at their job?
Yeah. Try to become more replaceable. So try to take a list of the things you do on a regular basis, 10, 20 things, and then try to pick 80% of the things on that. So if it's 20 things, 16 things from that list that in 6 months, you will no longer do anymore. And then figure out if you're going to optimize, automate, or outsource that thing so that you're not doing it.
All right. Ari, thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
I love so much what Ari had to say about making very clear what the outcome you're after is and just spelling that out. And because that opens up new opportunities for agency and creativity from humans as well as AI. And I had an exchange with AI and I was looking for a solution because I was thinking, boy, you know what would help me exercise more and get good bright sun by the window in the morning is if I could actually be on this little mini treadmill while playing a game at the same time with a controller, which I've done on a big treadmill, but I thought I'd like to do it like right up against the window in the morning. And I said, hey, find me window desks. And then AI was giving me some stuff, wasn't that great. And I just said, find me the brilliant, low-cost, creative way that I can be looking out my window and having my laptop supported while I am using a controller away from it while moving on a treadmill at the same time. And it said, well, there's cat window perches. I was like, what on earth is a cat window perch? And I looked at it, and sure enough, it's a whole category of product. And cat lovers may be quite familiar with it. It uses suction cups to stick onto a window so that your sweet little kitty cat can be up on that perch close to the window, basking in the sun. And the suction cups are hardcore heavy duty, so they can support even a fat cat. And I checked the reviews. Can it handle fat cats? And there were numerous people saying, my cat's fat. And it was totally fine supporting that cat. And sure enough, it supported my laptop as well. And I think that tip about sharing what you're trying to achieve, zoom out, provide some more words, some more context, can make all the difference in the world in opening things up. And this one, the cat perch, cost about a fifth of what a dedicated window desk would cost. And it was available quick on Amazon instead of shipped from Europe. And that's just great news. So share the outcome instead of just the narrow task, and watch the options and creativity expand for both humans and the robots. Great stuff from Ari. If you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to items that we've referenced, please drop them by awesomeatyourjob.com/EP1175. Hope to catch you next time, and peace.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, all beds are on sale during our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe, plus free delivery on any mattress. Ends Monday, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.